You are now listening to Random Ramblings with Rob.
Yay!
Yay! Yeah!
Motherfuckers. What up, everybody? This your boy B-Rob, and I'm back with another edition of the Random Rounds with Rob podcast. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for coming back each and every week, or however you listen to podcasts. If you're a first-time listener, I appreciate you very much for giving my show a try. And if anybody recommended you to me, I guess if you're ever in that person's vicinity, give that person a crisp high five. Okay. We have a guest with us on this edition of the show, and I've come to know this gentleman over I think about 2 years now, and it's just awesome to see someone from when you first meet him up until now, the progress and whatnot. And this man has many irons in the fire, and got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm just honored and privileged to have him on my show to talk about some of these things. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to former rugby player. He is an artist. I mean, an artist as in a master of all things, but more specifically painting. CEO of the Limor app, which I highly tout, and I'm currently wearing the t-shirt on. And dude's just awesome. He got a kick-ass accent. My guest with me this evening is Shane Monahan. How are you, sir?
Rob, very good. First and foremost, I just need to say congratulations on your intro. Very professional. And thanks for having me on the show again. Second time. Delighted to be back. And yeah, it's 2 years, maybe a little bit more, since we first kind of connected via Limor, which shows you the power of voice and social audio as well. How we've never actually met in person, but I feel like I know you, and I'd be happy to meet you and go for a pint. Yeah, which is incredible, really. So yeah, lots to talk about.
Yeah. So back to our genesis and whatnot. I heard you on the Naked Porch podcast. I think you might have just retired from rugby, or you were just starting to get into the Limor app. So whereabouts was it whenever you hooked up with Ray and them?
Yeah, so I think it was in the transition period, really, Rob. So that was, I officially finished rugby. I didn't know the boots at the time, around November 2015. And then I had a 6-month spell in the octagon in MMA. So I did 6 months of training and had a fight at the end of the MMA. And that was my period of transitioning out of professional sport into full-time with Limor and tech and business and entrepreneurship and that carry on. And it was actually the week of my fight was the week the first prototype version of Limor was ready. Mm-hmm. And that's when I knew that I would go back to play professional rugby anymore. And I hung up my boots, and it's been foot to the floor ever since. Building the app, the concepts, creating awareness, getting people like yourself on Limor, using it, experiencing it, and it's been a very interesting journey. And hopefully it's going to pick up some pace very soon, because fortunately or unfortunately, it goes into the territory of technology and startups. Is especially in technology, you need a lot of money to get anything done. So I've been flat out fundraising more or less for a year now focusing on raising funds to get the product to the next level. And we're getting very close now, fingers crossed, to hopefully getting on a big lead investor, which will change the game for Limor, but it will change the game for social audio and podcasting and everything to do with voice in general, which is very exciting. So, again, like the last time around, that kind of stuff, I'd love to be able to shout it from the rooftops who we're talking to, and they're very interesting people, as I said, in the business world, very respected. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks and months I will be able to talk about them, but I can't, unfortunately, at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's what I can talk about. Keep asking me questions, and what I can talk about, you know.
I got you.
But it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of things to unpack from what you was just talking about. I mean, we get where you're going with the Limor aspect of it or whatever, but you were a professional rugby player, and as part of your transitioning over to where you are now, you left rugby to do MMA, which is, all right, you're going from multiple people trying to bash your head in to a singular person focused in trying to bash your head in. So, I mean, what was that like? What was the the thought process on going from multiple to singular?
Yeah, it was actually that's I got asked that a few times, like, what do you think, which was harder or which was more dangerous or which was scarier for you? And I found, strangely enough, the MMA easier from that perspective because of the point you just raised there. I know exactly where I'm going to get hit from, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guy standing in front of me, where in rugby, at times you can get hit from almost any angle by multiple people who might be twice or three times as heavy as I am. So it was a strange one, yeah. And as well, it was new for me because MMA is an individual sport. And I've never played, other than golf, which isn't really in the same bracket. It's not a contact sport unless you are aggressive with golf clubs, you know.
Yeah.
But it was easier in the sense, or less pressure, I'd say, because, you know, in a team sport, it's you need to do well, but there's the added pressure of not letting the team down and your teammates. And that helps drive you on. It's an amazing thing. But in the MMA, it's me. Okay, you don't want to let your coaches down or your family or whoever is supporting you. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. Mm-hmm. And you're only, can you let yourself down? I suppose you can. But that was, I suppose, gave me freedom in a way. I'm trying to find the right words to describe it. But it was a new experience, and it was brilliant. And to be able to focus on myself and that kind of, like, the training was amazing. Yeah. Like, the fight itself was one of the hardest things I've ever done, ever. It was 3-minute rounds, but I got the job done in one round. And I'll say thank God for that, because it was 3 minutes of hell, you know. Because the guy I was actually fighting, the original opponent, I'll give you a little background on how I did it or what it was. It was a thing called Wimp to Warrior, and essentially it's a 6-month training program for people who have no martial arts experience. Traditionally, it's meant to be. Now there are, you might have done a bit of karate or a bit of boxing or jiu-jitsu or something like that, and you've never done MMA. But I had no martial arts experience. I'd done maybe 3 or 4 classes of jiu-jitsu, maybe around 2010. But that was about it. I just was a fan of UFC, and obviously Conor McGregor, being from Ireland, really boosted the sport and awareness of it. So I always wanted to give it a go. So when I retired, I hadn't retired from the rugby at this stage. So I was in the process of I was a free agent, as you guys might recognize from NFL, So I was looking for a new contract, and an agent looking for that. And the opportunity arose where, it was finished. So Munster Rugby was the club I had been playing with, and I was finished with them maybe 2 weeks, maybe a week even. And in the space of a day, both my father and a friend of mine showed me an article in the paper about this Wimp to Warrior thing,
Mm-hmm.
saying the tryouts are happening in a month's time. You can apply on the website, etc., etc. The fact 2 people said it to me within the same day, I was kind of like, this is a sign. Someone wants me to do this thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I applied for it, and I got selected to do the tryouts, and I trained like a maniac for, I don't know, maybe a month in the build up to this. I was already in very good shape because I was just straight out of, you know, being a professional athlete, and but was working on my endurance and my cardio and that kind of thing. And then I went in the tryouts, and the tryouts again was very, very, very tough. And I think it was tough. It was as hard as you wanted it to be, you know, and that's what the coaches were looking for. It was kind of like, right, here's the exercises. We're looking for, it was more for mental toughness they were looking for, you know, because people applying to do this, you know, I was one extreme being a professional athlete, and there was other extremes where you had, you know, people who, you know, let me say housewives, you know, or people who are very overweight and wanted to lose weight. And then there was other people who were depressed, and they were doing it to try and help their confidence and get them out. So there was loads and that's what's great about it as well. It's not about the fight, it's about the process, you know, and the journey. And it gets you mentally and physically in a better and more healthy situation. That's what, like, I don't need to tell you being in the Marines, how physical activity it can be so good for your mind, you know, and combat sports as well, and MMA, physicality like that, not just working on a treadmill or whatever, you know, actually getting down and dirty is a brilliant thing. But anyway, we did the tryouts, and I got selected off the back of that, which was great. And then we had 6 months of literally baby steps in the first few weeks, and then gradually grow and build your confidence as a fighter. You learn these new skill sets, and that's one thing I never did. I never trained how to fight properly, other than maybe watch the odd Bruce Lee movie, you know. But that's in itself was an amazing experience, because, you know, learning how to defend yourself, attack in the right ways, and again, it's all, and you get a discipline from that as well. You know, people who generally are trained how to fight aren't the ones looking for fights.
Exactly.
You know? So that was brilliant, and you know, the whole environment, the people who were there, they were all there with the right mentality as well. They all wanted to be there. They all wanted to improve themselves, wanted to dip the toe in the water in MMA and learn. And so we did that, made some great friends. You know, I was only texting one of the guys today. Actually, I've kept in contact with him. Very good friend of mine now, Gary Fox, who's actually on Limor as well. If anyone wants to check him out, he's doing an amazing project at the moment, the Entrepreneurial Experiment, or the Entrepreneur Experiment, the EE, where he basically is going to do the whole process of a business. He didn't have an idea to begin with. Yeah. He said, right, I'm going to come up with a business idea, and within a year we'll have developed it and hopefully sell it. Okay. So it's the whole journey, which is it's a brilliant thing he's doing, and he's a great guy. So you can follow him on Limor as well if there's anyone interested in getting in touch with him. But as I said, we built those friendships, and then you go the whole way through, and you're split halfway through. You're split into a blue team and a red team. Yeah. And then you're in your respective teams, and you train together. And it's like a fight camp then, as if you're building for a UFC fight camp. So they give you the whole experience of what it's like to be an MMA fighter, and you're paired off with someone in the opposite team. And the guy I was meant to be fighting against, a week before our fight, pulled out. Yeah. So I was left with, after 6 months of training, no fight. That's shitty. As you can imagine that. Yeah, pretty shit. So the next thing was, how are we going to get a fight? And the coach I was on was a fella called John Kavanagh, who some of your listeners may know who he is. He's Conor McGregor's coach. Yeah. So we were being coached by one of the best coaches in the world, which was an experience in itself, and you know, it was a great privilege to do that. But John, I was like, on to John, I was like, listen, John, I don't have a fight. Can you get me a fighter, please? And he reached out to a few of the clubs, the SPG clubs in Ireland, and we managed to get a fighter. There's a fella called Ryan Spillane, who I think he was about 21 or 22 at the time. But Ryan is a big dude. He's about 6'3", and I think he was weighing in at like 115 kgs at the time, or 120, something like this. Yeah. So he was super heavyweight, really. and I had been cutting weight. I was down to like 98 kgs, which is very low for me. I was usually, my playing weight in rugby was around 104. So Ryan said to him, he took the fight and late notice. And this is a guy, he's had 6 or 7 fights already. He was an amateur silver medalist in the amateur world championship.
Shit.
So, and he's actually since gone on to be he's now world champion, amateur world champion in the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation. So he's a serious athlete, and so I knew he was a more seasoned fighter than me, and so I had a tactic there mentally. I'd go in there and I'm just going to put so much pressure on the guy that he will fold.
Word. And
my blunt aggression, I suppose you want to call it, just get in his face. So I as a what's that famous rock and roll parody movie? Let's turn this shit up to 11. Final Tap.
Yeah.
So I turned the dial up to 11 for 3 minutes. Having the dial at 11 for 3 minutes is really, really hard thing to do. Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, but you was pumping off of that adrenaline, man.
Yes, the adrenaline thing. Yeah, so to touch on that, so essentially I suppose our fight. You still there, Rob?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Sorry, the line's kind of dropping in and out. Me and Ryan was going to be, our fight was going to be the main event, last fight of the night, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was hanging around in the dressing room for maybe 2.5 hours, 3 hours while this whole event went on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a strange, as you said, your adrenaline spike and you're nervous and you're excited and you're keen to get in and fight, and everyone else is having their fight and they're warming up in the same dressing room as you, and then they're coming in with blood in their face or hurt or all that, and all this time you're kind of like trying to gauge the timing of when do I warm up properly and all this kind of thing. And a thing we used to in rugby, it's different in rugby as well, because it's a stop start kind of sport, it's not non-stop. Like if you're doing a 800-meter run or something like that. So before games we'd sometimes take caffeine pills
man,
before the game, and you go out. And so I made the mistake of looking at this fight as being similar to the warm-up for a rugby match. So I took a caffeine pill maybe I don't know, an hour before it, and didn't feel the effects. And then, we're getting closer to the thing. It's right, it's getting closer. I'll take another caffeine pill. I think I took 2 or 3, but definitely 2, maybe 3, which was a big mistake. Because when the time came, and it wasn't a massive venue, but there were still maybe 300 people there, 250 something, 250. So small combined. So there was a brilliant atmosphere. And by the time I came out, it was the last fight of the night, so everyone was pissed. They'd all been drinking all evening. So they were a noisy crowd. So I came out there, and the switch was flicked, and that's when you kind of go into beast mode or whatever you want to call it, and the adrenaline kicks in then. So I did the natural adrenaline kicking in with 3 bloody caffeine pills in the system, and then when the referee says, right, fight, like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, you get in and turn the switch up to 11, and as I said, I got the fight done, but I could not get out of the ring quick enough because I started getting dizzy and I needed to puke. So they had.
I can relate to that, because I was just talking about this the other night, my first experience in a wrestling ring and whatnot, and it was similar to me. It was just like I was looking at it, the training as a workout. Like you would go to the gym, you take a pre-workout, and you pump, then you cool down, you go on about your business. So day one, I thought it would be a good idea to take a pre-workout to go do some wrestling. So I'm in there.
Yeah.
and I take my very first bump, I didn't tuck my chin properly. I spiked my head on the mat. Then I get up. I imagine that's what a concussion felt like, because I was woozy as hell, felt nauseous, but at the same time, from the pre-workout, I was all amped up and hyped and everything. So I kind of just shrugged it off, and I was like, yeah, give me some more of that,
Yeah. So tell me, Rob, you're doing wrestling now, are you?
Oh,
as a professional wrestling?
Oh, yeah, professional wrestling. But that was like years ago. That was like that was toward the end of my military career that I was doing that.
Oh, okay, cool. Are you still involved? Do you still do that training, or?
No, when I got out, and I moved here, it was just like I had an opportunity to go somewhere, but at the same time, it wasn't the proximity wasn't good enough. Because if you ever been to Houston, anybody that's listening or whatever, you can drive an hour in any direction and still be inside of Houston. So yeah. I was way too far, given the current situation, to go try to do that every day, every night, on top of work, on top of the podcast and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've heard of, fascinated by the whole wrestling thing as well. The professional, I suppose you can be a professional wrestler without getting paid. It's differentiating it from amateur wrestling, isn't it? You have to call it professional wrestling, but it's like I've seen a lot of the training videos or behind the scenes and stuff, and it's tough going, that training, isn't it? As you said, the bumps are, what's the canvas like? Very hard when you fall on it.
Yeah,
you don't do it right.
Exactly, because I mean it's not a lot of imagination behind it. I mean, it's plywood on top of metal with a thin, I don't think is even a full inch thick padding with a tarp over the top of that. So, I mean, but oh, it's padded. No, it's just covered. That's all it is.
Yeah, Jesus, no wonder those guys, their bodies get absolutely destroyed doing that for 15 years or whatever it is. So a big respect out to the pro wrestlers.
Yes.
But it's did you have many matches?
No, well, it was kind of like your situation or whatever. I did all the training. They put me through the paces to get the experience, and it was going to culminate in a match. But the timing with my retirement and moving away from there, I wasn't able to do my match because I had to do the physical aspect of it and get my paperwork signed and whatever. Because there in that particular area where I was in Missouri, they were like by the book with their wrestling stuff, as to where you've heard so many stories of, oh, I just showed up with no training and I got to wrestle,
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame that you didn't get to do it. And what was were you going to have a wrestling name?
Yeah, see, that I didn't make it that far. It's just like, that's the first question that everybody usually asks me when I tell them this. But it's just like, I never really thought that far. Yeah, but like, as far as a name went or whatever, I just didn't, it wasn't at the forefront of my mind, because like I was telling you about the timing of me getting out and everything, I was just trying to, figure out what the next thing was. I was just kind of living in the moment of the training and, trying to get everything done in time to do it. So I was more focused on trying to hurry up rather than to, come up with a gimmick or a name or anything like that. So, yeah, I just didn't really think of it, but often what I would think about is just, the same question I was going to ask to you. If Limor hadn't came along, or in my instance, retirement hadn't came along and I moved and whatnot, would you have pursued MMA? Because I feel like if I stayed in that situation or in that city that I was in, that I probably would have went further along with the wrestling rather than what I'm doing here now. So if Limor hadn't came along for you, would you probably try to pursue the MMA career, or how would that would have turned out?
That's a good question, and I have thought about that myself. Yeah, I definitely, I would have looked at it like goal orientated, like in terms of financial. There's not a lot of money in MMA unless you make it to the very top, and even at that, there's not a lot of money unless you're in the top 10% or whatever it is. So it's quite similar to professional wrestling, really, in that sense.
Yeah.
But I definitely, if I had I would have set a goal of, right, I want to get to the UFC. That would be my goal. And I did think, would I have done it? Yeah, it would have appealed to me. Especially after the experience I had, the 6 months there, and going through it, I really enjoyed it. I definitely wanted to fight again after it. Will I ever fight again now? I don't know. I definitely would have to train at the same intensity I did for the first fight if I were to do another amateur fight. But in terms of turning pro and that, it would have been something that appealed to me at the time. Yeah, definitely. And kind of the rugby thing was, I'd fallen out of love with the rugby.
Yeah.
It was more the political side of the rugby, and that ties into the thing we were talking about before, where it's not just about you. Where in the MMA you have more control in a weird way.
Yeah. And I feel
go in and you win.
Yeah. And I feel that sentiment or whatever, because it was the same way with me coming out of the military. I came to the end of a shorter career because I kind of felt like how you did. I mean, I was falling out of love with what I was doing, and if you have that feeling or whatnot, you shouldn't stick around because it's going to be toxic to the environment around you. You're not giving in. Or putting your best effort in for the team. Yeah, it's a strange one. Yeah. So I mean, I had to go.
Yeah, and it's sometimes situations happen you don't realize it at the time. Do you know the point in your career where the change? Right, that was the time where it finished for me, where there was that switch in my brain saying, "Right, be in the military anymore," but you didn't realize it at the time. Do you remember that?
It's just like even prior to I might have been feeling that 2 years before I actually pulled the trigger on it, because I think I was coming around
and do you remember the situation?
I was just sitting there at my desk just doing normal everything stuff, doing paperwork or whatever, and it came up across my desk about re-enlistment. It was time for me to figure out if I was going to give another 4 years or get the hell out. So at that point, I had already done 13 years. And for us, it was like, to retire, you had to do a full 20 years. So I was already at 13. I already given up 13 years of my life, 4 deployments at that time. And I was just like, man, I could walk away from this right now, but it was always in the back of my mind, like, what would I do? And, I've given all this time and I wouldn't get shit back for it. I would just be leaving clean off, So I decided, I was like, well, maybe it's time for a change of venue, because where I just came back from deployment. I already been there for like 2 or 3 years. I was like, maybe a change of scenery will reinvigorate me and, get me motivated again to, keep pushing on. So I went for re-enlistment, and now I'm filling out the paperwork. I'm doing all the packages and everything. And I came in with tattoos. Matter of fact, the person that recruited me into the military had way more tattoos than I currently do now. And that was kind of like the allure, the appeal to me, in certain aspects of joining the Marine Corps. So when I went 13 years later, obviously the policy had changed on tattoos. I think around 2003 or maybe even later. I don't remember the exact time frame, but they started slacking down on that. There's like, all right, if you have, like people who have full on sleeves and everything, tattooed from their neck down to their freaking wrist and all kind of stuff like that. So if you were in before a certain time and you had all that stuff, you had to go get it photographed and sign the paperwork and get grandfathered in, because they were going to change the policy. And so I did that back then, but I had shit leadership and I didn't know any better, so I didn't follow up. But I went and did what I was told to do, but it wasn't filed and recorded properly. So that was like maybe I was 6 or 7 years in at that point when that happened. And then 13 years later, years later, around my 13-year mark, when I go to re-enlist, my tattoos are an issue now. Because I did accumulate a few more, but it was before that cutoff initially. So now I had to go through the whole process again, like I'm brand new doing this. Like I had to take pictures of my tattoos. I had to submit it to Headquarters Marine Corps. I had to do this and that, this and that, this and that. And I was just like, well, this is bullshit. You know, I've done this for 13 years. My tattoos have nothing to do with my performance, you know, and just stupid shit like that. You know, it was dragging me to that end to where, like, you know, this is dumb. Why is this even an issue? I don't even want to do this anymore. So to add to that, the sergeant major there, you know, the boss's boss there for us was just like jumping on my shit because of my tattoos, you know? And I was like, this is nothing new. It's not like I just got these yesterday. I've had these for, you know, the life of my military career, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, he was just one of those type of people and everything. So it was so much of an issue to him to where, like, my re-enlistment almost got denied. So I was like, what the hell? You know, he was pouring buku salt on my shit, you know?
Yeah.
And, so I was getting down about that. Then the whole idea of just like not being able to continue to do the thing that, you know, I enjoy, you know, because of somebody else's opinion. And, so I danced all around that shit, got it sorted out, and I was able to re-enlist. Now, to even add to that, many years prior, once again, when I was of lower rank, I wanted to go back to the place to where I was trained in my craft. I'm transportation by trade in the military. So I wanted to go back to the schoolhouse where I was initially trained to be an instructor so I could teach the new wave of Marines coming in to the Marine Corps. So that's when I wanted to do it, way back when. Now I'm toward the end, or, you know, at this point to where, like, I really don't want to do that and I'm not feeling that. But, you know, when it came time to re-enlist and to go somewhere else, it was like my only option. So I was kind of like voluntold to go there.
Right.
So my wife is former Army as well. And that was like a big base of her career was there in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, where I would go to train. And she hated that place. She told herself, like, prior to meeting me, that she would never go back to that place if she had anything to do with it. And now I'm obligated to go there. She's married to me, so she has to go. So that kind of put an even more big of a damper on the situation, you know? So
yeah,
I had to drag my family back to this place. Cause like for me personally, I can go anywhere. I don't give a shit. I'll survive. I'll find something to do. I have hobbies to sustain myself. Yeah, you know, for other people, you know, it is what it is. So now I'm back in what we call bumfuck Missouri. And I'm here teaching. And what I come to find out about going back there and being an instructor is like how much more I enjoyed it than I anticipated I was going to enjoy it. So regardless of what we're doing right now with podcasts and I'm talking to you, we're having this conversation, I had stage fright like a motherfucker. You know, for me to get up in front of people and talk, you know, like it's more of a script thing for me to have a curriculum and to give that curriculum. It frightened me because I was scared I was going to miss some valuable points and, you know, just the overall delivery, you know, that shit shook the fuck out of me, you know, and going there and they train you in the art of setting up a classroom, doing a curriculum, you know, teaching points, you know, talking points and everything. They set you up to be a good instructor. And I really enjoyed that aspect after the training and to get up in front of the students and realizing that, like, you don't have to go verbatim. You don't have to go by the book. You just take the curriculum that they give you and you make it your own to best suit the situation. I mean, you can't be making up shit, but you know, you have the flexibility to, you know, kind of tailor to your style and everything. So I really enjoyed that. And, after a while it was good, you know, it was just like I was telling you, I felt invigorated. I was like, oh man, I can still do this, you know. And then by the year in, it was the politics surrounding the schoolhouse. You know, certain people had certain liberties, and, you know, at a point it was getting to where instructors was getting fried because the leadership was believing the students over the permanent staff. So students were bringing up all these false allegations, and the command wouldn't have their back, you know, just hanging their ass out to dry. And, you know, I thought that was shit. I was like, that's not what we do. You know, we look into the facts of the situation and, you know, make a determination after, not just cast judgment at a glance. So, you know, it really weighed on me. And then I hung there for about 2 years. So that put me at my 15-year mark. And around this time as well, we were drawing down from Afghanistan. We were pulling out of from overseas and all that stuff. And since we plussed up so much to go over there and do work, now everybody's here. It's peacetime, you know, quote unquote. And we got too many of you motherfuckers now. So some of y'all gonna have to go. So they were just kind of, it's strict up then, because we're not in wartime anymore. You know, usually we get you in, we get you trained, we get you shipped out somewhere so you can go do the work. Now that we're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs doing normal day-to-day things, you know, I'm tired of looking at your face. You know, you're getting irritating to me. You got to go. So things were more strict. Things were more tight. So at a time to where there's a Marine with a little more, you know, body fat than another guy, they were getting kicked out for that. You know, things that you would normally get a slap on the wrist or maybe a paper counseling on, people were getting kicked out for that. You know, people, you know, it was just like, just to get rid of motherfuckers. And I didn't like that. So I got passed over for promotion, you know, and that was kind of like one of the tipping things or whatever to like, you know, I've done everything I was supposed to do curriculum wise for my rank, my grade. You know, I don't have bad fitness reports, but I felt like they could have been better. So, I mean, that may have had a sway in it as well, but I've done everything to set myself up for that next level. And I got passed over for promotion. And I was like, well, that fucking sucks. And I didn't want to sit there and wait around for another go around or whatever, because, you know, if you get passed again, you know, your chances for getting promoted are real slim. And, you know, even re-enlistment after that would look kind of slim as well. So I'm like, do I stay around for the next, you know, look and risk, you know, being in that same situation I was 13 years to where I would have just walked away with nothing. So since the downside started coming, everybody with 15 years or more, but less than 20, they got offered this program called TERRA, to temporary early retirement assistance or something like that. So they was like, hey man, if you 15 years or more, but less than 20, you can retire early, but you would take a kind of a hit on your pay, your retirement pay. So for a full 20-year ride, you would get half, 50% of your base pay. So anything under 20 years, you would get that percentage would diminish. So I was looking at 16 years and 2 months at retirement. So it would have put me at like 40-something%. And I was like, you know what? I did the math. You know, I can still work, so I can eat up that difference. So I was like, retirement, please. let me get that paperwork. Why don't you pass that over this way? You know? Yeah. Now, yeah. I told my wife about it, and she was like, please get us out of Missouri. And that's kind of where it went down for me. And then that just kind of ran parallel with, like I was telling you about the wrestling stuff. So with that being thrown into the fire, it was just like that was the priority of the wrestling, to, you know, get my family situated, figuring out what the next step was for me. And at that point in time, you know, as much as I love to do the wrestling and whatnot, I don't think, you know, starting out a whole new life would be, you know, wrestling wouldn't be the stepping stone to get me to the next level of what I was trying to do. No, especially, you know, with a family and that, if it was just you and your own,
who knows? But responsibilities and that side of stuff. But no, it was great that you had that severance pay.
Mm-hmm.
You had a bit of security to able to get you set up, and I have a lot of respect for people like you in the military, and the Marines especially, because that's some hardcore people, hardcore training, and you have a lot of skill sets that will stand to you in everything that you're doing. Stuff like that, hard work, right, and knowing what actual hard work is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what that is, and that physicality thing teaches you that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting that heart rate over a certain level.
Yeah. And so even now, like, as many, like through my story that I just told or whatever, I mean, you think I would have a lot of bad things to say about the military. I mean, that's just my opinion. My opinion doesn't speak for everyone else's, but what I would say is, if you're coming out of high school and everything and you don't have a plan, you don't have a clear goal, I mean, I would highly recommend the military. I wouldn't, maybe not necessarily the Marine Corps. I mean, different strokes for different folks. I mean, you find what's best for you, who offer you the best incentives and everything at the time. And if you do it right, it can work way in your favor. Cause like you coming out of high school, you shouldn't have any bills other than a cell phone, if that. So, I mean, you get paid. I mean, here I am sounding like a recruiter, right? You get paid twice a month. They give you a place to stay. They feed you, you wear a uniform every day. So, I mean, you don't have to, spend so much on clothes if you don't want to. So, I mean, it can set you up on a good financial path, good freaking solid, stability, and they'll pay for school if you want to do that, or you decide to do it down the road. And, if you hurt yourself, physically, you'll be taken care of. So, I mean, I'd highly recommend it to anybody that doesn't have a solid plan moving forward. I mean, you don't even have to do a full 20 years. You can do 4 years and still be set up for success. So that has been my recruiter's announcement.
Yeah. Be all that you can be. Isn't it? Be the best. Is it all you can be or the best you can be?
Yeah, that's
the old recruitment.
That's the Army joint. Yeah.
The Army. Sorry, I know you guys are different. Sorry.
We're the few and the proud.
Sorry?
I said,
what was that?
I think, I don't know if it changed, but it's like, we're the few, the proud, the Marines.
Yeah, and I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but I'm fascinated by it. Like, why did you join the Marines?
Yeah, and we on the same wavelength or whatever, because I was going to track back to why you went into rugby, so we can just kind of trade off. I'll go first. So,
yeah, okay.
I come from a military family. My father was in the Army. My brother was in the Army. I had other brothers and sisters in the different branches of the military because I come from a very large family. And I just grew up around it. I would go spend summers at different duty stations with my sister and her husband. And I would go spend time with my brother at different places and everything. And I just seen the life that they had for them and their families and whatnot. My cousins, my nieces and nephews and all that stuff. And, I wanted that, so it was always in my mind, real young that, what my career path was going to be going forward. So I had a couple things that I've said on the show before, but like I either wanted to be in the military, be a stunt man, a martial artist, or a professional wrestler. And, through the Marine Corps, I got to do all 4 of those things. So, I mean, I think I feel I've accomplished everything that I wanted to do. That
is a hell of a CV and class goals to have. Yeah. Stuntman, martial artist, Marine. What was the last one?
Yeah, a professional wrestler.
A professional wrestler. Every one of them is cool. You know what I mean? If you achieved any of them, and you've achieved all of them. So fair play on that one.
Yeah.
I think my answer to that is very similar to yours too. Is look, my dad played rugby.
Mm-hmm.
He went to a school. He went to a private school in Dublin City called Blackrock College, which is famous. It's in rugby circles. It's a very famous school. It's like West Point in military, like in terms of famous for producing rugby players.
Yeah.
And my dad went there in the 70s, but my dad came from like I'm a town, a city called Drogheda, just north. It's about an hour north of Dublin, but in the 70s it may as well have been 10 hours north, you know, in the countryside, and rugby didn't exist outside of Dublin. And he went to this school. He went there when he was about 16, I think. And it was the first time he even heard of rugby or saw a rugby ball, and started playing and just fell in love with the game, basically, you know. And he took that back with him, and he played with the local club here and became captain, and just loved rugby, and introduced me and my brother to it when we were kids. We started at, I think we were 5 or 6 when we started. Yeah. And again, I love the sport. I love playing. I played all sports when I was a kid. We were very, like, we loved all sports. And the rugby one was, I played up until the age of about 10, and then I went to play soccer for 2 years or so, which was great. Really enjoyed that as well. And then I went back to the rugby at the age of 12, and really kind of the penny dropped for me in regards to rugby, and I was very good at it. You know, when you're good at something, you tend to want to do it more, you know. And I made a decision when I was 12, which, you know, I was very lucky to be able to do, was knowing what I wanted to do when I, quote unquote, grew up, you know. Yeah. Which was like you, I only had a list of 2. Was one, either join the army, or the cadets, as we call it over here, to be the officer corps, you know. Yeah. And potentially go on to special forces and that kind of thing, or be a professional rugby player. Yeah. So, and I said, if I didn't do the professional rugby thing, I'd join the army, and I did the professional rugby thing, you know. Yeah. So it was yeah, and they do a great thing in the school. I was in a community college. I didn't go to Blackrock now. My mother couldn't bear to let us go to boarding school, you know. Yeah. So we ended up staying in Drogheda, and we went to St. Oliver's Community College, which in our town would have been seen as the roughest school in the town, you know. But it was a great school, great teachers, great for sport. I loved it there. But they did a brilliant thing, whereas when you go in first year, they record you, and ask you that question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then 6 years later, show you the video and do your whole year, and see if you still want to do that. You know, see yourself as a little 12-year-old, and then when you're a teenager, when you're 17 or 18. And my goal was exactly the same as it was when I was 12. So, and that's I've learned that, you know, as I said already, it is a very important thing to, or a privileged thing to actually know what you want to do, because it still takes a lot of work, but it makes it easier in a sense to achieve what you want to do. You know, you have a goal. So that's how I did that. And, you know, you climb the ranks like anything, and each one was a set goal. So you had, like, there was age grades. So you had, you know, under 16s Leinster, under 18s Leinster, under 18s Ireland, under 19s Leinster, under 19s Ireland, and so on and so forth. And they tick the box, you know. Yeah. And I achieved every one of them until you get thrown into the mix with the adults, and competition gets a lot stronger. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's brilliant, and that's, you know, it's like anything. It's like you at the military. There's lots of peaks and there's lots of troughs, but I try to focus on the peaks and the good times as much as I can, and take that with me. You know. Yeah, that's what it's all about. So now, you spoke earlier. You spoke earlier about you know, things being meant to be, or, you know, getting that calling to come to do something. You transition out of rugby into MMA, and then Limor kind of fell in your lap, or, you know, the idea of it, you know, came to you or whatever. I mean, what was that the striking point? When did all that come to a head? How did that come to be? It came to be when I was still playing rugby. Oh, it came to be in December 2014, and this ties in around the period of time with my last season, proper season of professional rugby, was one of the worst years of my life, really. Very, very difficult year professionally, physically, mentally, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of, that's when I had my moment of realization that, you know, meant to be, someone's trying to tell me you're not to play rugby anymore. It's not for you anymore, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's when I came up with the idea. I was having I think we've discussed this before,
yeah.
but over the years when we were talking about, but essentially Christmas, December 2014, you get very little time off as a rugby player. You're playing every weekend, you're training, Monday to Friday, etc. But around Christmas time, especially, because you're still playing matches, so you have to be in camp. So I had something like 24 hours off or 48 hours off or something like this. So I flew home to Dublin or to Drogheda, and my dad is in a voluntary group. It's currently Drogheda as a town, but it's the fastest growing urban centre outside Dublin, so it should be a city, you know. And with city status comes a lot of, you know, things that are good for the area, investment, jobs, etc., etc. And we're not currently getting that. So my dad grew up in the town, and a lot of family history and commerce and business and that, trying to get city status for Drogheda. So it's a voluntary group anyway, and the problem with a lot of voluntary groups is you do all this great work and no one knows about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, so Dad and the group were getting quite frustrated with this, and Dad would, you know, old school, write letters to the newspapers. And 9 times out of 10, those letters don't get published.
Yeah.
And even when they do, they're gone after 24 hours. And that's why traditional media is losing the war against digital, and has more or less lost it, you know. And he was like, Shane, is there anything we can do to get the word out there about all this work we're doing? And I said, yes, Dad, there is. You can make a podcast. And first question Dad asked me was, what's a podcast? You know, so
exactly.
I had to explain to him what it was, and essentially it's, you know, it's a homemade radio show in very, very layman's terms. And I told him that, and he goes, Shane, that sounds brilliant. How do I do it? And I'm sure you get asked that a lot, Rob.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you make a podcast? And at first glance, it sounds easy, but it's actually not. There's a lot of work and equipment and time, you know, headphones, microphone, laptop or desktop, editing software, web hosts, set up your social media accounts, then you have to promote it, etc., etc. And
Yeah.
I explained this to my dad, and he goes, Shane, too much information, not interested. So he literally went from amazing idea to not interested in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I got the idea. I said, wow, imagine there was an app for someone like my dad or anyone who wanted to create a podcast or audio in general, open it up, say what you want to say, hit share, and you're done.
Yeah.
So it removes those barriers to entry, and the term less is more came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the name Limor comes from, or Limor. So that was the seed of the idea. And of course, it has evolved a hell of a lot from then. But I took that initial seed. As I said, the timing is everything in life as well, you know. Mm-hmm. I may have come up with that idea when I was 20 at the beginning of my rugby career. I may not have gone anywhere. Or even the timing of, if I had launched Limor in 2014, it would have been too early to do it, you know. But where the world is, where technology is, where the podcast market is, where voice technology is at the moment, the time is now for a platform like Limor. Because essentially what I'm doing with Limor is, Limor is not a podcasting app, and
Mm-hmm.
this is something that you know, I have to explain to people, and people are only starting to wrap their heads around what podcasts are now in the mass market.
And I don't understand that either, because it's been around for so long. But you know, as things do, I mean, it takes time.
It takes time, exactly, and people are only getting used to it now. And I'm kind of saying, no, well, actually, this is different. You know, and in my view, it's better. It's the next evolution of it. And I kind of go, what? You know, and I try to explain this to podcasters. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, this is how you podcast. Mm-hmm. I go, no, that's, you know, and I use and language is very important here. I said, no, that's traditional podcasting. You know, Limor is the next evolution again in that, you know, on Limor you can do a 1 minute recording of your thoughts or a result of a ball game or just whatever, does that qualify as a podcast? You know, not really. And even the technical side of it, you know, podcasts in technical terms is related to the RSS feeds, you know, and wide free distribution on the internet, etc., etc. Well, Lemur is a different model to that again. But essentially it's going to be, it's evolving it, making it easier, making it not scaring people. As I said, you know, most people, they listen to podcasts, or if they do listen, they love consuming, but are intimidated by creating content. And not everyone wants to be a podcaster. It takes a lot to be one, you know, and I have a lot of respect for people who consistently, and you're one of them who consistently delivers for their listeners, or if they want a show. But not everyone wants to do that. But I do think that everyone would still like to be part of this era of audio which we're coming into. You know, and it's the same with, you know, Instagram or Twitter. People didn't want to be professional photographers, but they still wanted to be involved in images on Instagram, and that's what Lemur offers. It offers that easy accessibility to creating audio and communicating, and that's the big thing with Lemur as well. With podcasting, there's no real interaction between creator and consumer. Whereas Lemur social audio, it allows you to talk to the host or the content creator and spark conversation. And that's the future, I believe. And the next evolution of social media, full stop, is voice. You know, because all the negatives, but social media is amazing things like anything, but there's negatives there. And because it's so new, and like anything that's good and new, people dive in head first without thinking of consequences, you know? And that's what's happened with social media. And people are saying, you know, social media isn't actually social at all. You know, that's the irony of it. Whereas social audio, hopefully, because it's voice, it, you know, you don't have the keyboard warrior side of things, where when you actually speak to someone and you hear their voice, it brings humanity back to it. And that's a very important thing too. And you can get, you know, that passion, emotion, context, and like we're talking here now, recording your show, in essence, and as you can do it now on Lemur, but you would be able to have a conversation like that, you know, and spark it, even if it's a short conversation in a comment section, it could spark to and this is how we ended up connecting. Actually, that's exactly it. So we're talking now because of Lemur, which is an amazing thing. As I said before, hopefully one day we'll get to meet in person. We definitely will. As I said, I was over in the States, and when Lemur, and we get a bit of funding in and I have a bit of time, we'll definitely be making a trip to Texas. And you know, because, you know, the military thing, I'm going to wreck your head about asking you questions about your military service and how good your shot was, you know. Professional wrestling, you're into Marvel movies and all that carry on as well, aren't you?
Oh yeah, all the things.
So, like, you're on the other side of the world to me, but we have so many things in common, and it's hard to get that across with just an image or text. You know?
And that's what I was going to bring up as well, because, like, what you were saying about the feeling behind your words and whatnot, because, you know, here it is, real life, you know, through texting. I mean, that's usually the mainstream of people's communication nowadays. And I'm married, been married going on 12 years. And we have got into many an argument through some text because, you know, I'll text it in, you know, meaning it a certain way, and the other party interprets it another way. So it leads to an argument. You know, and that's the same thing with the internet. You know, people intentions aren't properly conveyed through words, you know, but like how I feel with Lemur, or, you know, things in the like, to where you can hear someone's voice and you can hear the sincerity in it, or the sarcasm, or whatever the case may be, because it's harder on Lemur, especially, you know, with that community. There's a great group of people. You don't get like so much of a negative feedback from anything. I mean, you get some opinions, but you won't be like how on Twitter a motherfucker will be like, "Oh man, suck a dick." You know, you're not going to get anybody like that. You know, you're going to get somebody with some genuine feedback, and, you know, "Hey man, your recording didn't sound so well here," or this and that, this and that, this and that. So that's what I appreciate about Lemur. And a lot of the marketing part of it that I've done for Limor, because I get people like how you were saying earlier come to me be like, hey, what does it take to start up a podcast or whatever? And I'm just laying it down like how you did for your pop, which is like, all right, you need to find someone to host your audio. You need a microphone. You know, I would recommend a mixer, and you know, you need some headphones, and, you know, just the whole spiel, like how you was telling him and whatnot. And that does create a lot of anxiety or whatever. I mean, for whatever reason, it can be multiple things, you know, financially, you're not in a place to go buy all this stuff, or you just even in a tizzy about, all right, which headphones do I get? Which microphone do I get? Which laptop, computer, or recording device that I should look into for my setup? You know, all that stuff that comes with it, to where like, I'm just like, hey man, there's an app called Limor. Just download it to your phone, and you can do everything from your phone. Just try it out. I mean, if you don't like it, it doesn't really, you know, like go to iTunes or anything like that. It's just a controlled thing. It's kind of like journaling. You know, we can see your progress from when you started all the way up. And, you know, just like that video you was talking about, you know, this is you here starting with your first, you know, Limor experience. And then we get to see you go through your archives, you know, to where you are currently as you grow using the app and feeling more comfortable using your voice and, you know, just talking about things and subjects and topics and whatnot and interacting with the community. So I highly recommend Limor. If you look at any of my show descriptions for the podcast, Limor and the Laughable app are always listed on there for links to find it. And, you know, I wear the shirt all the time in Walmart, so I really dig it.
Yeah, and I owe you a jumper. I know. I'm gonna make a point of getting another jumper made and send it over to you. And it's like support like that is massive for us. Like you've been a Limor original, you know what I mean? From the early prototypes and really like the version we have now, using an MMA or martial arts example. In my eyes, the Limor you see and use at the moment is a white belt. Mm-hmm. You know. Yeah. And when it's a black belt, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with, you know?
Yes, sir.
And it's very exciting. And the design, as I said, is more or less coming on a year that I've been in the fundraising to take it to that next level, to maybe a blue belt, you know?
Yeah.
And it's very exciting. And as the market is growing and evolving, it's frustrating in one sense, because we're so ahead of the game in terms of where we are planning on taking voice and audio. Mm-hmm. It's just keeping that momentum and keeping ahead of the game is key, you know. But you know, there's a reason why I was invited over to Silicon Valley, you know, as opposed to asking to go over, which was a big boon and a big positive for us. And that was 2 months ago now. I was over there, and it was an amazing trip. And I have to say, the people in the US and California were so welcoming and friendly. And one thing which was a breath of fresh air for me, like you always see it in the movies or hear the cliche of the American dream, you know. And like I've been trying to raise money and spread the idea and the vision that I have for Limor in Ireland. You know, Ireland and the UK for the last 4 years, and it's like it. I've unwavering belief. That's just my stubbornness. What it is, that I know this thing is going to work, so it doesn't bother me. But it can be frustrating at times when other people, when you're going in, you're trying to explain, and then they're kind of like, oh, I don't know, I don't think that will work, or I'm not too sure, or sounds good, but maybe, you know, when you're further down the line, come back to us, you know, this and that kind of attitude, which. I can't abide, you know. But so when I went over to America, and okay, it is, you are in the heart of tech, so they get tech straight away. But saying that, the attitude was just amazing. It's kind of like, love it. Mm-hmm. How can we help? What do you need? Let's do this, you know. Yeah. And it was just a breath of fresh air, and goes, this is amazing. And it's kind of like in the papers and the news and business in general over here, and they're kind of like, why are we so far behind America? Like we have amazing talent, amazing people, and there is money here, but we're like 10 years behind, you know, America. And it comes down to attitude. That American, you can do it, you know. If you have the right people and you have the funds, you can fucking do anything. Yeah. And And it's true, and it was an eye opener for me. And it's kind of like, I was in Palo Alto, so you're right in the heart of it, and that was really, really cool to, getting Gianni Maximin, if he ever listens to this, fair play. He's a great guy. He brought me over and very tapped into the whole scene over there. But he was giving me a tour and said, "Oh, there's the first ever Apple store. This is the street Zuckerberg lives on, and all this carry on, and here's Stanford University, and all this stuff was amazing." But I got to Uber into San Francisco, and when you're driving over the motorway and you come, because we don't have cities the size of and San Francisco is a small city compared to other American
it's crazy,
cities,
right?
Yeah, and I was like the skyscrapers, and I was like, Jesus, it was like being in a movie. And I felt like, Ivan Drago and Rocky IV when he sees Apollo Creed dancing to Living in America, he's like, I'm not saying Ireland is like communist Russia, but it was kind of like, oh my God, you just get a sense. I got out in the financial district in San Fran and all the big massive buildings, and it literally just hit me, and I was amazingly experienced. Hard to describe. It's like fucking hell. I was like, this is what it feels like. I says, you can literally do anything. If you have the right idea, the right work rate, the right people around you, you can achieve anything, and that was an amazing thing. And that's what, like, you see all this stuff, in the newspapers and all that about America and the world in general, but it's very divided at the moment in the States, and it's like it's fucking ground zero all again, or it's the end of the world or something, But I think that's just a narrative people like to push because bad news sells,
Exactly.
But it wasn't the sense I got at all. Like, everyone over there they were all very positive, you know. And this is California, which is one of the most democratic, not democratic, the most blue country states in America,
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, no, they're all extremely positive and very, very positive about the future and all that, which was great. So that was an amazing experience, and I aimed to, the minute I get this round closed and get my ducks in a row, I'll be back over in Palo Alto again, and while I'm there, hopefully, as I said, we can hook up and do a podcast in the same room, potentially. Go to a WWE event, something like that.
Oh yeah, I'm down. Well, I mean, I don't know how how in a row your ducks will be by then, but January, Royal Rumble will be here in Houston, Texas. So
wow,
if you can make the trek this way, I mean, I have an extra room here for you. So.
Wow, appreciate that. Will we still have an Irish women's champion by then? Who knows?
I don't know, but I mean, she's still be in the record books. So
yeah. So what was your view on? I know it's old enough, but on WrestleMania.
Oh man,
this year's WrestleMania.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I've been to 4. This is my 4th one, and I'll say out of the 4 that I've been to, this was the best one for me.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just the overall experience for me, just going to New York, New Jersey and all that stuff and all the things surrounding the trip. Cause like I got to actually, like how you were saying, I got to podcast with people that I admire in the same room while I was out there. And, I had people that I served with in, the military that lived in that area that I didn't even know, that we hooked up on a whim and we went throw axes and all kind of other crazy shit. And, yeah, I mean, it was just all around an amazing trip and everything. And, just, seeing Kofi win, seeing the first women's, main event of WrestleMania, and to have, the woman win, well, the man win 2 belts, Becky 2 belts. Yeah. So, I mean, the whole experience was great.
No, that sounds great. Like for me, I suppose I've been out of touch. I used to watch. I only really got into wrestling. Like, I remember, like, in the 90s when I was a kid, we didn't have Sky in my house, so we couldn't watch wrestling, Yeah. But a few of the kids I went to school with had it, and they'd always, that's during the Ultimate Warrior era and Hulk Hogan back in the day, Mm-hmm. And so that was the only exposure as a kid I got. And I kind of had the generic, wrestling's fake and all this kind of, and that was more a social thing with kids, like, that's not a real sport. Concentrate on rugby, concentrate on this kind of thing. So
yeah.
I never really got exposed to it. And then when I went to secondary school, this is around 98, 99. So that's the height, the Attitude Era, isn't it? Or to come into the Stone Cold and the Rocks and all at the end of it nearly.
Mm-hmm.
And I got exposed to it again then. And my mate, I'll never forget it, in the art class I was in at school, all the lads would draw pictures of Stone Cold or the Rock. You know?
Yeah.
And I remember them telling me, I said, what are you doing? Like, who's the Stone Cold Steve Austin character and who's the Rock? And they'd explain it to me, and they were like, this is the best thing in the world. You need to start watching it. And I wish I had listened to them.
Yeah.
Because I missed out on that live. Of course, since I got into wrestling, I went back and watched it all again, and I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. You know, Stone Cold is one of the greatest entertainers of all time. Of course, The Rock still is, you know. But and then, you know, I went off and did my rugby, and it was around 2007, 6-7, where my mate reintroduced me to it, and that's when I really started watching wrestling religiously. You know, Monday Night Raw, got into the characters, and that was WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania 23 when Batista was against The Undertaker. You had, you know, Randy Orton and Edge were still rated RKO, DX, and all that kind of thing. Again, that build up to that WrestleMania. It was my first time where I knew all the characters, I knew all the storylines, and it wasn't fully PG then either, you know.
Yeah,
and that SmackDown for the World Heavyweight Championship, you know, that Batista, when he was still the Animal, against the Undertaker, and he was still able to roll, you know, was amazing, and I was hooked after that, you know. And I was stuck into it for a good few years, and then I kind of fell away the last few years where I haven't really watched it religiously. But the big ones, of course, like your WrestleMania, I need to get to go, and it's on the bucket list to get there some year.
Oh yeah,
actually go.
So once again, I don't know how in the line your Ducks are gonna be. It's gonna be in Tampa, Florida. I'm going. So if you can make it down there, you know, I might have a rollaway mattress for you in my hotel room. So
brilliant. I might hold you to that one now, Rob. And another thing I ask you, Booker T. He's from Texas, is he? Yeah,
he down here. He's in Texas City. That was one of the wrestling opportunities I potentially could have had. I was telling you about.
Yeah, because he has his school down there as well, and he's big into podcasting now too, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy, you know, you should try do a podcast combo with Booker T. Would be a cool one to listen to.
Yeah. I've had a couple of his wrestlers on this show early on when I first moved here to Houston. So I keep tabs with them here and there. I mean, they're doing pretty good. They were exclusively with ROW. Reality of Wrestling is his thing down here. And now I'm starting to see them venture out around the Texas area and everything, which is pretty cool because like I see a flyer and I see one of the faces on there. I was like, oh snap, that's them. I know him. Yeah. I know him. And then most recently for Elimination Chamber, when Becky Lynch came to the ring and she beat up Charlotte and Ronda Rousey. Those two guys, the ones I was just talking about, were the security that was taking Becky Lynch out of the ring.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so I was there live watching them do this thing, and I was just like sitting up there in the stands like, wait a minute, that guy looks familiar. And then I look up on the screen, and I see his face. I was like, oh shit, that's him. So big shout outs to Kiefer Bartek and JJ Blake.
Yeah, no, fair play. And I think that's a cool thing for you as well, isn't it? To kind of be part of the evolution of those guys' careers, even, you know, any bit of exposure or being on a podcast like you is great. You know, it's part of their journey, and must be exciting for you to be part of that too. You know?
Yeah, man. It's just like high five.
Yeah.
But shit. It's a good conversation, man. You're a good dude.
Yeah.
What's next? I mean, I know you talk about funding and everything, whatever, but idealistically, I mean, if you had your way, what would be one thing? I'm just limited to one. What would be one thing that you would add to Limor?
One thing. Oh, one thing. I think That's a very difficult question.
Yeah, I know you
Very
got so many things. I mean, it's your baby.
Yeah, the one thing. See, there's a mix of it. You see, because there's one of the things that I suppose some of the feedback we're getting from people is the sharing of content.
Yeah,
you know, outside of the app.
Yeah, I remember that because me and you had that conversation.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where the issue therein lies is the metrics and the analytics. And that's a big issue for podcasters in general, is where do you share your podcasts? And, you know, they say share it everywhere, you know? But the problem therein is the lack of accurate analytics on who's actually listening, where they're listening, how they're listening, why they're listening, etc., etc. And that's a big advantage we have within Limor is those analytics. And the sharing is an important thing. I think I want to have the voice control is a big thing, because essentially Limor will have voice activation, you know, as we grow. So you're not going to need a device in time. There'll always be a device, but there won't be, if you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's a big one to get it to that stage. But put the voice control in there, Rob, to give you a very bad answer to your question. So what's in the future for you? Are you ever going to go back in the ring? I think we've opened a can of worms there. Now, you know, are you going to go back and have that match?
See, the thing is with that is, like, if I was given the opportunity to, work behind the scenes in some aspects and whatnot, I would love to do that. As far as in-ring stuff, if it was like maybe, a small program, a one-off or something like that, I would be totally down for that. But like for the long term, the longevity of the thing, I didn't realize how jacked up I was physically until I got out of the military. So, the shoulders and the knees and the back, I don't think it would, allow me to do it for long stints of time. So, I mean, if, you want to bring me in as a, maybe a ringside personality or, a manager type or a hype man, I don't want to take a couple bumps here and there from the good guy and I roll out the ring and just sell for you. I could do that. But to like go on tour, go to city to city, and I don't think that's in the cards for me right now. But if I win the lottery, I wouldn't have shit to worry about. So I just do whatever the hell I want then. So
just set up your own promotion. Be the Mr. McMahon of your own promotion. Yeah. That would be pretty cool. Like you'd be like a part like the coach. There's a guy is I won't say underrated because he's very highly rated within wrestling, but brilliant entertainer, brilliant guy, absolutely hilarious. I was delighted. The only contact I've ever had. He replied to one of my tweets once. Yeah. I think you might have seen that. I sent it to you actually. Yeah. Yeah, I was so excited about it. Something about him taking a stunner. He sold it really, really well. Yep. But that kind of stuff. Actually, there was another a friend. A guy I know from rugby, Alex Corpiciero, who's very, very successful rugby player in his own right. He played for England and the British and Irish Lions, and he's actually the rugby analyst on NBC Sports now. Yeah. So he's doing very well. But he is a massive wrestling fan as well. And last time I met him in London, he was telling me he actually was in a wrestling match in Canada, a cage match, and Bobby Lashley was in his match.
What?
Would you believe? Yeah, I know. That's what I said. He's like, what? Bobby Lashley? And he goes, yeah, he was like one of those security goons that came in. He trained for it now. And he went in and he got thrown over the ropes and stuff like that. But he was still in a cage match involving Bobby Lashley, which is a tick the box moment,
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. You asking me with my feet. I was like, I could do stuff like that. I just come in there, and then I get thrown out of somewhere, and that'll be it for me.
Take a few foot stomps in the corner of the ring, and then just, that one-handed on the back of your head and just throw you over the top rope.
Exactly.
Job done.
I could do that.
Yeah. And the Surge, he's gone.
Yeah. See, and that's funny because like that's my dad's nickname. Like all his old friends or whatever, be like, "What's up, Sarge?"
Really? Yeah. Oh, cool.
So
yeah,
I'll carry it over, even though that's like not a thing in the Marine Corps, but I still carry that over. That if ever there's a time to where I have to come to a nickname, I incorporate that somewhere.
Yeah.
So you did it. You came up with the name.
Brilliant. And yeah, get a few of those t-shirts done up. And you wore one. Did you know the drill sergeant's hat, the Marine Corps, the kind of full metal jacket style hat? You used to wear one of them, did you?
Oh no. I never did any of that. See, and that was another thing too. Like I was there. I worked in Paris Island for a little while. That's on one of the boot camps. There's two of them for the Marine Corps. There's one in San Diego, and there's one in South Carolina here in Beaufort. No, well, I say here like I'm there, but and I worked there, and I had a hand at training recruits, but I wasn't a drill instructor. I was pretty much I ran the rappel tower and the gas chamber and all that other stuff in the crucible events, which is like their final evaluation before they graduate boot camp. So I had a hand at training them at those levels, in the beginning, kind of in the middle, and at the end of their phase of training. So I got to see them in all different evolutions of their freaking evolution to become an actual Marine and shit. So I didn't wear the campaign cover or nothing like that, because like I don't think that fit my personality, because I'm not the type of person that can just at a whim yell at somebody, unless it's my kids or my ex-wife. Then that's something different. But it just didn't suit my personality. That's why I didn't apply for it or try to go out and do it.
Yeah, no, it's. I suppose it's one of those. I think that's more Hollywood, isn't it? What people see in the Marines, and what's his name? Lee Ermey, isn't it? He just passed away. It's a year or 2 years ago now, isn't it?
Sad still.
Funny. Yeah, he was an amazing character as well. His transitioning into movies, which is another thing that you should look at doing. Oh, you've already done it, haven't you?
Hey!
Yeah. What am I talking about?
Yeah. So,
is there anything you can't do?
I don't know. I'm just weaseling my way into that. I dip my toe in everything,
Yeah, tell me about that. I meant to talk to you about that. I know we're talking for ages here, but I remember you. What was it? Was it an action movie or something?
Well, there's two instances here. There's a couple things that happened. When I first moved here to Houston, I didn't have a job. I fresh out the military, just kind of getting used to not working constantly and everything. So I took it upon myself to get an IMDb account, because it has the pro account to where you can make a profile, put yourself out there so like people can search me up on IMDb and see all my shit and whatnot. But as a part of that, you get a certain access to information to where like you can all right, just for an example, I could type in Wesley Snipes in IMDb Pro and it'll give me all his contact information, not his personal contact information, but like his publicist, his talent agency that he might be working through and all that stuff. So I can contact all these people. So that was kind of like the driving force behind me getting the trial for IMDb Pro, because you get access to all this stuff. And now, like, I'm a podcaster, I can use this to my advantage, maybe, possibly. Never really panned out. But as a part of that, you get to see job listings. Like, they looking for actors to do this, and then this. So I was just like, well, shit, let's see what's going on around here in Houston. And I look it up, and no shit, there was a production company doing a movie less than a mile away from my house. And I was like, what the fuck?
No.
I was like, shit, well, let me look this up. So I go, send an email, get the info, and I show up to the office. In hindsight, it was a scam, pretty much. So I'm not gonna even bury the lead. It was a straight up scam. Dude conned a whole bunch of people out of money and everything. Fortunately, I recognized it for what it was. And he didn't get me, but like I still stuck around because I wanted to see how everything was going to play out. It was just like, and then like subtly subtly, I would like drop hints to different people, let them know that this was all a bunch of bullshit, you know, to try to save as many people as I could. So I was like, hey man, you've ever seen the script for this movie yet? And they'd be like, no, I really haven't. You know, he said I was going to be doing this, this, and this. I was like, yeah, man, I don't think there's a script. I mean, there's these little liners that we do, but everybody has those. So, I mean, that's just something to think about. I'm gonna just throw that your way. And I was like, hey man, you notice, you know, there's only one camera here, and yeah, you know, just subtly hitting it like, hey y'all, this is some bullshit. Don't give him your money. But that didn't pan out. It was pretty much a scam, because like I'm filling out the application when I first went there, and it's like, do you have a house that we can use for that you'd be willing to let us use for the filming? All right. Didn't seem too odd. Then I scroll down. Do you have any vehicles or cars that you wouldn't mind us using? Do you have any equipment that you wouldn't mind us using? And he was like, well, shit. I mean, am I funding this motherfucker? You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I was hip to it kind of early and whatnot. But all in all, from that project, I met a whole bunch of cool people and everything that I found out there were wrestling fans, and some were martial artists, and they've been guests on this show, and we've hung out and done cool things together. So I'm grateful in that aspect for that experience. Secondly, I do security here, and I was downtown, Houston, doing one of my posts, and they had these, two gentlemen that are here, and they were, had their cameras out, cool ass gimbals and all kind of stuff. And there was, filming footage of the city and whatnot, just, you know, taking pictures of buildings and whatnot, doing a whole bunch of B-roll material. And me being the dick that I am, you know, I'm in my full security guard garb. I got my badge on. I got my gun on my hip and everything. And I decided to fuck with them. So they automatically see me. And, you know, you kind of get to feel like, all right, if I'm here, it's like, we're not supposed to be videotaping here. That's kind of the vibe that I was putting off. So I was like, hey, you know, real stern, real mean, like had a mean mug on my face when I was saying it. And dude, you can see it in his face. It's like his shoulders went limp and everything. He's like, fuck, you about to come mess with me. You about to tell me something I can't be here or something. You about to tell me something bad. And I went up to him. I was like, hey man, that's a nice camera. Where you got that from? And you can see him relax, and his face just kind of like untense and everything. He's, oh shit. And he's like, yeah, man. And we start talking about the camera and everything. I told him I was a podcaster. And he's like, yeah, man, we got our own production company here. We do small movies and music videos, yada, yada, yada. And we trade business cards. About a week or two later, or maybe even less than that, he's like, hey man, we shooting a music video here, and we was wondering if you would like to be one of the officers in the film and do some like minor B-roll stuff for it. I was like, shit, I'm down. Where I need to be. So I showed up that one time. I was in a music video. I was a security officer. I was taking a suspect into custody, and I was also an undercover agent, as well, undercover police officer as well. So I got to do that music video with them. And then, you know, we would keep tabs with each other. He would talk about roles that he would need me to play or ask me to play in this little project here and there, here and there. And then, months down the line, he was like, hey man, I need you. We making a full length feature, and, I need you to do a couple of scenes for us. Sure. No problem. Get dressed up, go down there. They film it, and no shit. Not too long ago, they released their full length feature here in Houston at one of the theaters and whatnot. They had a big party. It was a big turnout, and it was just amazing to see, you know, two people with, you know, that gusto to want to do something so original, something that's their own, and just, you know, make it their way. And they got it done. I mean, they had a great turnout. They had an awesome after party. I mean, it was just amazing to be a part of that experience. So I had it on one end to where it was a bust, it was a whack as hell, and it was just a scam. And then I go to the other side to where like it was an actual success, and it was freaking awesome, and it was a cool experience. So yay, I was in the movie.
Yeah, that's that peaks and troughs thing we were talking about.
Yeah. So I got the digital download. I need to try to get the physical copy from him. I had to get him to sign it for me so I can put it in my collection.
Brilliant. Brilliant. No, that's cool. No, that is cool. I was saying that, like, I love movies and all that kind of stuff, and movie production as well. You know, like being involved in the acting side of stuff. I don't know. I'd love to try it, I suppose. Well, saying that, I have tried it in a small sense. I was similar kind of story to you. A fellow I met while I was playing rugby. He's a film producer, TV producer, director, etc., etc. And my agent at the time, George Roberts, really nice guy. He introduced me to him, and basically, he was looking for, you know, sometimes they like to get, you know, professional athletes or whatever to play extra parts. Yeah. In movies or whatever, and I got chatting to him, and I told him, you know, I'm fascinated by the movies. Listen, if you have any bit parts or you need a hired goon or anything like that, I'd love to be part of it, you know. And Simon Tate is the name of the director, and he's actually a Canadian guy, and he was a pro footballer, a soccer player back in the day. But so I got a message off him out of the blue. I think it was when I was in Munster, so around November 15th. He says, "Oh, are you around on these dates? I have a part for you," you know. So I was like, "Yeah, great." So anyway, I met him in Worcester. Arrives. He said, "Be at this address," and I arrived, and I was couldn't find the house, and then I saw the house, big massive lights and lamps out the front of it. So it says, "Right, I'm guessing it's this house," and I went in, and they let me in the door, and he's like, "Shh, come on down here," and they were in the middle of shooting a scene. And it was an amazing experience for me because they had the cameras there and the lighting, and there was this couple were having a massive argument. Yeah, and the acting was that good. You'd swear you literally walked in on a real couple having a massive argument. And that was the first time I really saw acting up close, you know. Yeah. And then they said cut, and they said, "Right, give it 2 minutes, and then we're going to." And then we're going to do another scene or do the same thing again. And they did it, and they did the exact same scene again. Flawless. Yeah. You know, no stumbling work. And then they did it again. Flawless. So it was amazing to see. They've some memories, in fairness to them. Yeah, you know? Exactly. And unreal. And then my part, anyway, the lowdown of the movie was, it's called Weapon. Mm-hmm. And you can see the fan page on Facebook, but they basically, it was about this guy who's a Afghanistan veteran, British Special Forces, and he comes back to England, and he's got PTSD, and there's a murder, and I think he's accused of murder, and you know there's terrorists involved and all this carry on. And I was playing a police officer, detective. Coming in, and I didn't have a speaking part now, you know. I was kind of like the muscle, the goon, and then there was this lady playing the speaking role, and she was tiny now, lovely woman, but she was tiny. So I looked, and the camera adds 10 pounds, you know, so I looked absolutely massive beside her. But it was an amazing experience. You talk about the MMA coming out physically tired and mentally, and this, when I was leaving, I was mentally, excuse my French, fucked after. I was so tired because I was like Daniel Day-Lewis becoming a method actor, you know. Yeah. And I was like, right, what would a detective do at the door? What would he do here? And be prepared that this guy's a former special forces guy, and I need to be prepared that he's going to jump at us and he's wanted for murder and all this carry on. So, but it was great, and that was what, 4 years ago. Yeah, old PC Broadfoot, huh? Broadfoot, that's the one, yeah. Oh, you're on IMBD, yeah. Yeah. There you go. I was about to say that I have my own account. It still hasn't been released yet, so it's still in post-production, unfortunately. But so there you go. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't have the pro account though, unfortunately. Well, see, that's the crux of the thing too. It is like, you have an account in there and I have an account in there, but like what they don't tell you is like you can put all your information in there, your stats, your photos, and all this other cool stuff. But if you're not paying that subscription every month or getting any money coming into there, they don't post your stuff up there. There you go. Well, there's always a tax. Yeah, because like I'm looking at yours right now, and it has your name there and a couple other things, but it's just like no pictures. It's just blank. And apparently, I have it up here now. Apparently, I was in Sunday Night Baseball in 1990 as well. Yeah, I'm looking at that too. I was 2 at the time. Yeah, so I was in Weapon, which hasn't been released yet, so I'm looking forward to when it finally comes out, and Sunday Night Baseball, which I might look up after this podcast. So yeah, so that's the crack anyway. So it's all good, and yeah, so yeah, I might see you in another movie down the line.
Hopefully.
Who knows? Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I won't never say no, you know. If they call me up, be like, hey, man, we need you. I was like, all right, just let me know what day so I can schedule it with work to be off.
Yeah, but fair play, you're doing, and see, that's the thing, you're going out and doing things that you want to do, you know, that's outside of the norm as well. And a lot of people wouldn't do that. They'd be too scared, you know, or nervous.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing about it, because, like, I am scared and I am nervous, so I'm doing it to break that shit, you know?
Yeah, that's important. Outside the comfort zone, it's the only way you grow.
Exactly.
So, no, it's great. So, we've been on for a while now.
Oh, yeah. But one last thing before we wrap it up. You was talking about the acting and everything. We kind of led into that or whatnot. But what I've seen beyond the social audio, the Limor app and everything that I've been, want to applaud you for is your video commentary and everything that you're doing, on the side as well. You got your YouTube channel up, you're documenting a lot of things. You have other people contributing and whatnot. And as a business and whatnot, it's good to also, have that social audio, but it's also good to have some visual representation as well. And I want to applaud you on doing all that stuff.
Oh, thanks very much for that. Yeah, no, it's so important. Like, I am ironically a very visual person too, and it ties into, I suppose, loving movies and production. And I have a great guy working with me as well, Connor Heavey, who does my video and editing and all that carry on. Great guy. And it adds that extra bit of creativity.
One of those words.
I'm forgetting how to speak here, which does not bode well for social audio. But I love that, and it just adds another aspect too. And it's enough to, with Limor as well, it's not just audio. You obviously have the images there as well, which it's to draw you in. That's what it's for. There's trailers to. It's like the album cover. That's how I look at them. The album cover or the book cover, or the old VHS cover back in the day, or DVD cover. You'd be looking at them for hours. And it draws you in to listen to the full content. And the video is very important for that as well. And putting a face to a voice is also a nice thing to do at times too, Yeah. So it's another aspect. And down the line, when Limor's worth $1 billion, I'm gonna get a movie together and put those creative juices into action. And you'll be part of that movie as well, Rob.
I'm down. I mean, they can. I just want to be the guy in the background sweeping up the trash and everything from all the notes that y'all balled up and threw on the ground and whatnot.
Yeah, do a new version of the Expendables or something like that. Get all the washed up action stars to get them cheap in the movie, so it doesn't cost too much. Get a Steven Seagal in there somewhere along the line.
Yeah, there you
go. Better be careful now. I won't say he's washed up. He might jump through my window or something.
Yeah. And not kick you above the knee.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So it's great. It's great. And listen, great talking to you again. I always enjoy our conversations. And we didn't even get into it. We must do it again. We didn't even get talking about Endgame. Well, I don't know if you've seen it yet.
Oh, of course I've seen it. I've seen it twice.
Oh, have you? So no spoilers. No, or we won't let any secrets out at this stage anyway.
Well, I mean, everybody knows what's going on. I mean, even the Russo brothers said if it's been past 2 weeks, if you haven't seen it now, I mean, you subject to spoilers. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So, brilliant movie. Amazing thing. And have you seen the Spider-Man Homecoming trailer?
See, that's what I don't do though. Like if it's a movie I really want to see, I avoid all that stuff. I don't read into it. I don't look at trailers. I just want to go in there with a fresh mind and just be amazed by what's going on in front of me.
Well, that is actually a very smart thing to do. I at times I'm hard. It's hard to stay away, but it was a very, very good trailer. I have to say, where they're going with things is exciting. I won't spoil it for you, but it looks really good. It looks really good.
Well, yeah, I'll be there front row. Well, I won't actually be front row because I mean that's terrible on the neck. But
yeah, worst seats in the house.
Yeah, I'll be there. I don't even know why they just don't get rid of that. I mean, they can just put like, you know, once we make it big and you produce this great movie that you're talking about the Limor experience, and Limor is making billions of dollars. We should make our own movie theaters, and we just take out the first 4 rows and we can replace it with like, I don't know, mattresses or something, or like a ball pit or some shit. Just, I don't know. We can get a better use out of those first couple of rows, because that shit ain't it, man. Just sitting there looking straight up and everything, or to the right or to the left, depending on where you're sitting.
Don't say too much about that, because I think we're onto something here, Rob. This could be the future and big business. So don't let the trade secrets out.
All right,
top secret.
I'll edit this out.
Yeah, do definitely.
All right, trademark.
Hashtag trademark. Yeah. So no, it's great, and yeah, movies and all that kind of stuff it's a great way to switch off too, isn't it? It switches off, but it also get your mind working in a strange way, creativity as well. You know, if you're that way inclined, which I certainly am, your imagination and sparks it, and it's a great. They're great things, I think, and gives you ideas for different things.
Yeah, straight up.
So,
well, like you said, we've been rambling for a bit, and I just heard the wee one come in through the front door from school. So let's put a pin in it right here, my man.
Yeah.
So,
no, listen, it's been a pleasure as always. I really appreciate you asking me to come on again. It was great, an honor, as they say.
Yes.
So,
but before you go, let everybody know where they can find you on social media and what you got going on, man.
Okay, yeah. So, as you guys listening, you can check me out on Limor. First and foremost, we have the official Limor profile, or Shane Monaghan on Limor. You can find out more about Limor at www.limor.ie. So it's spelled Limor. Or, of course, you can download it for free from the App Store or Google Play on Android devices. Then we have my own personal Instagram, Shane Monaghan Designs, or the Limor.app profile, and the same on Twitter. So hit me up if you want to talk to me or know anything more about social audio. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So and little tidbit for you. Like I said, I'm wearing the Limor shirt right now. When I got up this morning, I threw it on, take the kid to the bus stop, and she seen it, and she was like, Limor. I was like, yeah, it's just like Limor. They spell it different. And then I pointed out, I was like, see, less is more. And she's like, oh, okay. And then like the whole time she was sitting here waiting on the bus to come, she's like, less is more. Less is more. Less is more.
There you go. You'll have to send over. I'll have to send her a t-shirt as well now.
All right.
With number. So yeah, we'll keep in touch, and I'll get that sorted for you.
All right. Well, once again, man, I appreciate you sitting down and chatting with me and whatnot. And the door is always open for you to come back, man. Just promote whatever, or just shoot the shit.
Yeah. Same goes. I've got Mono y Mono, my own podcast. I've kind of got the finger out and started creating new episodes. So we'll have to do an episode, get you on Mono y Mono.
I'm down. I'm down.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, Rob. Well, absolute pleasure. And talk again soon.
And that was the awesome and stupendous Shane Monaghan, CEO of the Limor app, which you have heard me over many times in many podcasts speak highly upon. So if you haven't taken that plunge into some social audio, go ahead, do it now on your iOS device and your inferior device, the Android, and download the Limor app. What I recommend for people who are interested in starting a podcast or just want to dip their toe in to the audio realm, Limor is a good place to start. You don't need to buy any equipment. It's a free app. You know, there's no hidden freaking purchase fees or anything like that. You just download it, create your profile, open it up, and get the recording. And you have that instant feedback from the community there. You can hear their actual voice responding, to your queries, if you have any, or just to your show in general. So, I mean, I need to get back there. I haven't been there in many moons. I was, I'm trying to do it at least once a week and everything, but taking on Wrestling is Trash, which has fallen by the wayside for the past 2 weeks. The WrestleMania thing and the Comic Palooza stuff has really kind of thrown me off with that. And I'm steadily working, trying to schedule more guests for the main show that you're listening to right now. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'll be back soon with some more episodes of Wrestling is Trash. I hope you're enjoying them. You can find those older episodes on wrestlingistrash.com. And but once again, the Limor app, just go and check it out, join the community, follow me if you download the app at 3R Show, much like my Twitter account. So speaking of Comic Palooza and whatnot, we're 1 week removed, 2 weeks removed, as this would drop after the J Penjell episode that we did live from Comic Palooza. And it was a great experience, man. I have nothing but good things to say about Comic Palooza. I didn't get to see Trish Stratus. I didn't get to see Lita like I wanted to. Billy Zane dropped out because he was doing some other shit, which made me sad. He was the sole purpose that I wanted to go to Comic Palooza so I can meet him. And I got to see my man Philium, former guest of this show, half of the Who Got Next podcast, third of the Rant with Ant podcast. Podcast. I'm speaking with the accent now. Podcast, which is on June 8th. Going to be no more. Kind of sad about that. But hey, man, all things don't last forever. And he has plenty of good reason. He has stuff going on personally that he got to take care of. And you just don't feel the same way about the show that he used to. So, we spoke about it in this episode by not having, the passion to continue on. And when you're feeling like that, you're no good to anybody else surrounding you. So, you need to take a step back or switch course and find something that does fuel you, or continue the course into a different direction. I don't know. But yeah, shout outs to the Rant with Ant podcast for providing me with many of hours of entertainment on long road trips, commutes to work, and, just sometimes when I'm chilling. And man, I got a taste of the convention life, man. That Comic Palooza shit was fun. And I speak about Amelia Clark and all those other people that were there and whatnot, all the celebrities. But for me, the best part of Comic Palooza was seeing my brethren, my fellow podcasters and everything. I got to see the Cult 45 podcast. Damn, why am I putting all this extra on these words? Podcast, the Nerdy Bitches, Walker the Geek, the Bride 5 podcast, Keisha from the Libra Lounge, one half of the Houstonish podcast rolled up on me while I was at the table, Luz. So I got to see her, Raging Nerds, freaking the Rebel Radio podcast, which they gave me another scarf. I got another scarf to add to collection. I got 3 of them now. I got the OG scarf, the very first one that I got from the Houston Podcast Fest, which with every podcaster that I met that had buttons, I'm adding that to that original scarf. So it's almost like a freaking Boy Scout sash and shit with all my Merif badges and junk. Then I ordered a custom made Random Rounds with Rob scarf. And then they hit me up with a Guardians of the Galaxy scarf, baby. I got a Groot on one side growing like a long tree. And then I got all the other Guardians on the other side, which I will cherish these things forever. But yeah, man, just to hang out with all those people at Comic Palooza. I got some pictures that I'll be putting on the Facebook page that you can see the day this episode drops with the I ran into every Deadpool I can possibly run into, costumed or just merchandise wearers, and I tried to take a picture with all of them. So I'll post all those pictures on the Facebook page. And I have a video of one of the panels that I've done in 3D. So that's currently on the Facebook page. You can go back on the video section and find that. And I might try to upload it to the YouTube page. I have 2 YouTube pages. I have 3R Show, which I just grabbed just to grab. There's nothing on it currently, but I might just start transitioning some video content over there. The other YouTube, that I've been currently using, like all my episodes are posted there. It's just, I had that for years. I never really used it. And I just, I just don't like the flow of things. You can make playlists and everything to kind of separate all the videos and whatnot. But when you look at the feed of videos, it's just like podcast. One video that I might have done, another video I might have done, podcast. I just don't like the flow of that stream or whatnot. So I snagged up 3R Show because it was available, and I'm gonna probably put all the video content with me in it or stuff that I've made over on that side. So you can look at that, look at both of them. Might be there, might not. You know how I do sometimes. But yeah, that's about it. Compalooza, great. I'm trying to get into some other conventions, maybe do a little traveling with the podcast, maybe even do some more live events separate from conventions and whatnot, just to come up with something. If, there's any interest in that, I'm talking to you, audience, people listening to my voice right now. If you got any interest in that, hit me up, shoot me a DM, send me a tweet, send me a Instagram. That's the plural. I don't know, but do those things. And, yeah, keep kicking ass, y'all. Thank you for supporting the show. And speaking of ways to support the show, after you follow me on Twitter at itsbrob, that's ITSBROB. If you want to talk professional wrestling and any other general shenanigans, that's the place you do it. Also, this show that you're listening to right now has its own Twitter that you can follow at 3R Show. The aforementioned Wrestling is Trash podcast can be followed on Twitter, also at Wrestling Be Trash. And you can follow both of these accounts on Instagram at Wrestling is Trash and the Random Rounds with Rob. Just search for it. It's a long ass convoluted name. You can go to randomrobcast.com and find many different ways to support the show by purchasing merchandise, which I highly encourage you to do. I just had a piece of merchandise pop up on NXT TV. I forget which episode it was, but you can go ahead and I got a screenshot on my freaking Facebook. Not Facebook. Yeah, it should be on Facebook. I think it's on the Instagram, but it's definitely on Twitter. So shout out to the Cretans Guild, my homeboy over there, repping the brand, getting a random dad cap and wearing it out there in the NXT crowd and whatnot. So that's cool. And like I said, I got shirts. You just missed the sale the other week. I did it all Comic Palooza weekend and the week after. But there'll be more sales to come. It'll be cool. Get you some cool merch. And you can also be a Patreon for as little as $1. $1 just show your support. $3 will get you a sticker pack. $5 will get you a paracord bracelet and a sticker pack and some other goodies from me. $10 will get you discounts on merch and everything that I mentioned previous and some other things. I just don't remember the thing off the top of my head. All that stuff is appreciated. It doesn't matter the amount that you give. I tried to undercut everybody and set my price at 50 cents, but it don't let you go that low. $1 is the lowest I can go. So $1 is what you have for the low content stuff, which, I know I've been slacking on that. WrestleMania and Comic Palooza, and all those major events got me off my shit, man. And, I got all this uncut audio I need to put up there, especially that one episode of the Wrestling is Trash with Anomaly. Oh man, I don't want to tell you about it. I had to put it up. I'm looking at it right now. The file is on my desktop. I just need to transfer it over. Quit being a lazy piece of shit. But I appreciate all those supporting via Patreon, and you can use my Amazon links and all that cool trash and whatnot. But it's not about the money as much as I like the money and how much it helps out the show. I just found out I'm paying to run this shit like $100 a month. I didn't think I was paying that much because I pay a little bit here, pay a little bit there, and all this stuff. It's just fucking crazy. I'm not bitching at you. I'm not telling you, oh, woe is me, I need money to support my habit and whatnot. Nah, I'm not doing that. I just didn't realize that till the other day. I'm doing the finances, but it doesn't matter about that. This show is going to continue whether you give me money or not, because, this is my jam. This is what I like to do. But the most important way, the way that I would prefer you to support the show is to like it, share it, retweet it, tell somebody about it, play it out loud, especially if you're in Alaska and Montana, some of those places I'm not tracking analytics on. And, you know, write those 5-star reviews. I mean, if it's anything under 5 stars, I would very much appreciate you if you leave some feedback. Give me a chance to grow, get better, and whatnot. And if you hold on to we talked about this before. If you're still here while I'm talking, running my trap after the interview is over, I appreciate you for that. You know, you getting to hear me, you know, open up to you a little bit, whatnot. And yeah, if you're listening this far, and you hear me say these words right now, hit me up in a DM. Use the secret password Ninja Chop. And I'll give you some discounts on some merch on randomrobcast.com. I'm just testing y'all to see if you're listening this far. So Ninja Chop is the secret phrase. Hit me up in the DM on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere like that. Shit, if you're not following me, give me a follow. I appreciate that too. But yeah, all those things, like, retweet, subscribe, share, listen, review. I haven't checked my reviews in a while. I'm asking y'all to send me reviews, and I don't even know if I got any new ones, but they are appreciated if you're going to do them. But that's enough of me rambling, and I'll see you next time. Dum-dum-dum-dum-dum.